Welcome to another edition of the Field of 68's off-season grades. I'm John Fanta, joined by an Arizona alum in Jeff Goodman. We're going to talk about the Wildcats now. You think about Arizona, Jeff, and the state of this program. In 4 years under Tommy Lloyd, 3 Sweet 16 trips, he's 112 and 33. Now, there have been higher goals going into the tournament where this program felt, hey, maybe we can go to a Final Four if everything breaks correctly.
Yeah.
But now heading into his 5th year, there are some questions here for the Wildcats, who are now in the Big 12, to answer, but they still look the part of one of the stronger teams in the country, at least on paper. I guess first and foremost, before we turn to everything with this roster, how would you assess where Arizona basketball is at right now?
Healthy, and you didn't know that would be the case with everything that happened when Sean Miller left and Tommy Lloyd took over. So much healthier than you thought they'd be in terms of coming out of the gates and consistency and all that. But again, if you're an Arizona fan, if you're an Arizona alum like I am, you want Final Fours. You want a chance to get in the mix, get to a Final Four. I was fortunate to be at the national title game where they won in 97. And, Lute Olson had it at a different level. He had it at a different level. I mean, they were elite of elite then. They were the West Coast program. Now, when you talk about the best West Coast program, you're talking about Gonzaga, frankly. That's what you've been doing for the last decade or so. So I think they want to reclaim that. And in order to do that, you got to go deeper in the tournament. But again, what Tommy Lloyd's done, really impressive, being able to sustain it, being able to stay in the top, 10-ish almost every year throughout the year. So you got to give him a lot of credit. This year is going to be a little challenging, Fana, because you're bringing in some freshmen that are talented, that are mature, but it's hard to win with freshmen these days.
It is. 2 top 10 to 15 freshmen, one in Koa Pete, who has just such a unique skill set, and there's a lot of anticipation with him, a guy that just brings versatility to the table, and then a guy who won a lot of games in high school, and he's got this bulldog-like toughness when you watch him play physically in the circuit. When we covered him and watched him, he was so tough, and a guy who willed his team, and that's Braden Burries. These are 2 marquee freshmen. What's gone? Well, Caleb Love is gone. The Caleb Love experience is done. What a unique college career. KJ Lewis, right? Henry Vasar, Trey Townsend, Carter Bryant, who goes right to the NBA draft. He is gone as well. Jaden Bradley is back. Tobe Awaka is back. Krivas in the front court is back. Anthony Del Orso also is back. So, Jeff, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I think that the biggest thing that comes to my mind, and you go with it where you want to, is, okay, so now Caleb Love is done. So what are we going to see from Jaden Bradley at point guard?
Well, you're going to have to see more of a leader. He's a guy that's going to have plenty of options, plenty of weapons around him. He knows the system now. He's got to be that veteran because, frankly, when you look at everybody else, Awaka's in his 2nd year, and he's still trying to figure out his offensive game. Krivas he played 9 games last year, with a foot injury. So he didn't play a lot. Del Orso, came from the CAA. Now you got 2 freshmen. Again, no matter how talented Koa Pete and Braden Burries are, they're still going to go through some growing pains. So Jaden Bradley has to be that rock, that leader, that point guard, that distributor, all of it. And I think he's a huge key for this team this year. But it's interesting. I mean, when you think about this team, you look at them and Fanny, you're like, they are men. Even those 2 freshmen do not look like freshmen and do not play like freshmen. As you said, Burries is a bucket getter. He's a killer. He can go for 30 any given night. Now, he's going to have his ups and downs. But I'll say this. I trust him probably more play-to-play, game-to-game than I do Caleb Love. Just because you didn't know what you were going to get out of Caleb Love, which made it, again, I kind of knew when they brought him on, I'm like, all right, they're going to get to Sweet 16s. I
Right.
think I probably said this if you look back. They're going to go to Sweet 16s and he'll get them there. But then he may shoot you out of. Now, he didn't shoot you out of that final game. He was terrific in the Sweet 16 loss to Duke. But, frankly, he's not a guy that you knew what you were going to get all the time, where I think
Mhm.
Burries is going to be more of that. And Koa Pete, man, you just know there's only one guy. There's only one guy in the freshman class that I trust more play to play, game to game for the season, and that's
Wow.
Cam Boozer. It's Cam Boozer. He's the only one that you say, like, I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get 18 and 8. Koa Pete, he's won 4 gold medals with USA basketball. The kid is an absolute winner. He is mature. He's not flashy. He just does everything well.
And then you have the unique late ad in early June, June the 3rd, when Bayern Munich wing,
Yeah.
very highly sought after international talent, Ivan Karchenkov,
Yeah.
commits to Arizona. He had North Carolina in on him, he had others in on him. But this is a guy who obviously has a bit of a pro background.
Yeah.
And when you look at his production, it's not like he was a double figure scorer for Bayern Munich. But again, you're playing at a different level. 6'7", Jeff, just over 200 pounds,
Yeah.
and a guy that certainly carries a lot of intrigue. The question I have for you is, what do you expect from this kid? How does he figure into all of this?
So I was told by somebody that he's kind of in that Pella Larson mold. Like that's what he is. This big, tough, hard-nosed wing who does a little bit of everything, right? And that's what Larson was, just kind of that glue guy, right? He did everything you needed and probably, wasn't assertive enough, wasn't selfish enough. This kid's only 18, but he's played at a high level
Yep.
and been effective at a high level. So I think he'll be a nice piece. I don't think you need him to be more than that in year one because, again, you're going to start Bradley at the point. You're going to start Burries and Pete. You're going to start one of Krivas or Owaka, and then, the last spot, we'll kind of see what happens with that last spot. The other kid, the other freshman we haven't talked about is Dwayne Aristode, who I saw at Brewster Academy a little bit. Big, athletic wing, 6'8", super athletic, and he's coming off an injury. He didn't play last year much, if at all. He could be a Carter Bryant type guy. He could be that defender, that athletic defender. If he buys into it, that's a role you could see for him this year. It's not going to put up, crazy offensive numbers, but he could be that guy that you just put him on somebody and say, "Hey, go lock him down." Because, again, those 3 freshmen, if you put them against the wall with everybody else in their roster, and you're like, "Who picked the freshman?" You would not pick these 3. They're
Right.
men, and this team is full of men. Like you look at them, they are so big, strong, physical that it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it all plays out with this group. And normally, again, you bring in 3 freshmen, you're relying on them right now. I'm going to be like, no chance, no shot. But I will say, like Koa Pete, we saw him a lot. He does not play like a freshman. Burries will have his ups and downs, but for the most part, his IQ, his scoring ability from all 3 levels, he doesn't look like a freshman. So this team's really intriguing.
And this will probably be the only time. It'll be the only time that I ask you about this. I can't speak for Rob Dalster and John Martin and our other hosts, but you'd be remiss in the offseason grades to not bring it up when you look at the roster because people are going to look at the roster. They're going to say, okay, Bryce James is on this roster, the younger
Yeah,
son
yeah,
of LeBron. Now, he's not one of those 3 notable freshmen. I'll allow you to do it, but I would just tell everybody we don't expect Bryce James to be figuring into much on this basketball team. Can you just clarify with the folks
yeah,
in social media
yeah.
about Bryce James to Arizona here?
Yeah, Bryce James is a project. He is an absolute project for Arizona. Probably should have gone a level lower, but we'll see. I could see him playing sparingly this year. That's what I would anticipate. He plays sparingly this season. He's probably, 12th on the depth chart or whatever they have, 11th, 12th. But they figured they'd roll the dice with him. Obviously, he's a little bit bigger than Bronny. I don't think he's as talented. I don't think he's as skilled. But again, you take a shot with Bryce James. It helped you get Braden Burries too. Didn't hurt you. So I don't know how much that figured in. But as long as LeBron and the family understand, like, here's the plan. And they're not going into something where they're delusional and thinking that Bryce James is going to be a key piece this year. See what happens. Give him a year of development. And then maybe Tommy Lloyd has a conversation with LeBron. And hey, you know what? I'm not sure he's going to be able to play here. He should transfer down a level.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
Jeff, as we turn to the X factor for this team, I look at like two guys that were last year around 7 to 8 points per game in an Anthony Del Orso comes in from Campbell. It's obviously a big level shift up to go out to Arizona. I look at Tobe Awaka, who was close to averaging a double-double, but was not there. When he was, Jeff, I think when he was good, he was really good. Like, there were a couple of games last year where he took over the physicality of the game. And then you've got Krivas. I think health is obviously important, to say the least, for this team. And maybe it's the freshman. Where do you turn if you were to identify the X factor for this team and whether or not they're just a tournament team or they are in the second weekend again and have a shot? What is it?
Braden Burries for me. He's got to be a dude. He's got to be a guy who, because he can go get you buckets. Yeah. And who else can? That's not really Jaden Bradley. That's not Koa Pete. Koa Pete can, again, he can score, but he's like a, 15 and in guy. He's not going to be shooting threes. He's not going to be, give him the ball and he's going to go make something out of nothing. Burries can do that. And I feel like if Braden Burries is, freshman of the year in the Big 12, then you're talking about an Arizona team that, if he can average, there's a chance you could look up at the end of the year and see their two top scorers. Braden Burries leads Arizona in scoring. And I think if he does, okay, then Bradley averages 12, 13. Pete averages 12, 13. You get a combined out of Krivas and Awaka. I don't know, can you get a combined, 18? Out of those two? Delorso gives you 10, 12. Okay, you got enough there. You got enough. But Burry's just got to be the guy, to me, game on the line. All right, let's give this dude the ball because he is just a professional, prolific scorer.
I will say this. I respect the hell out of Tommy Lloyd. By the way, my X factor would actually play off of you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of Burries can go and get buckets. But can Jaden Bradley realize what he's there to do? To set things up, be a dog. Yeah. Because now he's being relied upon at a level that, frankly, Jeff, he has not been relied upon.
It's his team. It's his team.
And that's never happened for him. He's never been able to say that.
Right. No, that's true.
But I will say this about Arizona. The Big 12 was a little bit, in terms of depth, was down last year.
Yeah.
The top of it was really good. They got 4 to the Sweet 16, and they make their runs in the NCAA tournament. We know what Houston did. Houston could have been the national champion, but the schedule for Arizona is really, really hard. And
it's Lute Olson like Fana.
It is.
You were too young to remember. Lute Olson's schedules were among the best ever. Like every year he would play people. I give Tommy Lloyd a ton of credit for putting together this schedule because they're loaded. I mean, they open with Florida and Vegas on the opening day of the year. Nobody does that. Nobody.
No. You got UCLA.
Yep.
You're at UConn. At UConn in November, you're taking on Auburn.
Yep.
In Tucson. You're meeting Alabama and Birmingham, so a de facto road game. You're facing San Diego State. San Diego State's going to be good, folks.
Yes.
Like they could be a top 20 team.
Yes.
They look the part of that. My point is, Jeff, because of I think this is a top 15 roster. But there's a difference between having a top 15 roster and playing like a top 15 team in November and December. My point is, this could be a team that is like 6-4 at one point, and then has to do some work in the Big 12 to shelve some things out. I'm not worried. I respect them for scheduling, but for the questions this team has to answer, Jeff, they don't have much time to figure out answers, because Florida's a top 5 team. UConn could be a top 5 team. They'll be better for it, but man, sometimes scheduling to this degree can backfire.
Well, do you remember what their record was? And I'm looking at it right now.
I know what you're
looking
looking
at.
at.
Do you remember what the record was coming out of, I believe, league play last year? So they started out, I'll read it to you.
5-4,
quick.
right?
Yeah, they were
6-4.
I'm looking at it right now. They were 8-5, coming out of Central Michigan game. They were 6-5. So they lost to, Wisconsin, Duke. They got blasted by. Remember that one? They got blasted by Duke
On their home floor.
Oklahoma, West Virginia. Remember out in was that Maui or
That was Atlantis.
Atlantis. That's right, in Atlantis. And then they lost to UCLA. So they lost 5 games in non-conference. And even I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get back from this. It just goes to show you, though, we make these determinations, especially on the big boy teams. There's so many opportunities in the Big 12 to kind of figure this thing out. I don't think they'll come out the same way because, again, I do think they've got some maturity and they've got 4 guys back. Like, that's the perfect number for me is always, if you can have 4 of your top 8 back, that's ideal. That's going to be more than most, right? 4 of your top 8 in the rotation. That's basically what they've got, because Krivas was a starter, for the most part before he got hurt last year. Should have been a starter. I don't know if he started all those games. And again, I think, I just think this is a team that we don't know. Like a lot of these teams that we're doing these for, you feel pretty confident in what you're going to say. Well, hey, you know what? I know they're going to be top 10, and I feel really good about, I think Arizona's going to be right there. I think they're going to be top 3 in the Big 12, 4 in the Big 12, something like that. I trust them because I trust what Tommy Lloyd's done in the regular season these first 4 years. But it's a little bit of a different ball game here because you don't know if Jaden Bradley's a dude like that. You haven't seen Burries at this level, and he's not like an explosive athlete either. He's not like this unbelievable athlete. He's big, strong. He can get to the basket. He's got a good mid-range game. He shoots it now. So the one, I like the bigs. Now the bigs got to stay healthy too.
Right.
Because there's nothing behind those guys. So Krivas can't get hurt again.
Right.
Because last year they had more depth on the interior. This
Not
year
now.
they don't have a lot.
No, and some of the options on this team, yes, you bring back 4 of your top 8, but it's still freshmen. You're still relying on. They went the freshman route, right? I mean, they took an international kid and they took 1 transfer. They didn't load up in the portal, which you and I like to see it. I like to see coaches try different things, but it can be a hard game, especially early when freshmen are trying to fully figure things out. But what they have that others don't, sometimes a coach goes all in on freshmen. And they don't have as much returning. This team does, but I think the caveat would be some of these players who are coming back, a Bradley, an Awaka, Del Orso, Krivas, you're having them back to say, now you've got to go from here for this basketball program to here. Will the evolution actually take place? So with that, assign them a grade, Professor.
So I would give him a B plus. I
Okay.
would give him a B plus. I love who they brought in as freshmen. I just don't love that they're freshmen. I think they lost a good amount. Um, Carter Bryant, nobody saw that coming, really. Not that he would go as high as he did in the draft. Nothing you could do there. I thought KJ Lewis leaving could be a significant loss. I would have liked to have kept him, to be honest, but you can't keep everybody these days because somebody else is offering more money somewhere else or more playing time or a bigger role, whatever it is, but usually more money. So I like this team. I think a B plus is fair for this group and what Tommy Lloyd did. But as you said, you get one transfer. He sounds crazy right now. And that one transfer isn't even going to play, really. He's a third point guard.
Right.
So it'll be interesting, but I think B plus is probably fair.
Yeah, I went between like A minus and B.
Yeah.
So to be different from you, I'm going to say A minus because of a couple of things. Number one, you still have two guys that could end up being, if Pete and Burries pan out to the degree that they pan out, you just brought up your faith in Pete and Burries for that matter. If they were to both pan out and Jaden Bradley setting this team up and Krivas and Awaka stay healthy, yeah, there's some ifs. But this can be a top 10 team, and it's dependent on the two freshmen, the top two freshmen and Aristotle. But I'm going to go with an A minus because I respect the fact that he scheduled. I know that's not necessarily an offseason, but you know what? It is for me. He scheduled a slate of games that makes Arizona so relevant.
Yep.
That's going to give this team a battle-tested nature. And I think at the end of the day, I reserve my A's for. If you're on the A scale, it means that you're probably in the top 15 to a degree. They're not an A team. They're just above a B plus. I would give them like an 88 to 90-ish score. So I'll give them right on the edge of an A minus and say, I still have some questions. I would have liked to see a marquee transfer. That would be my one knock. Yeah. But overall, Arizona should be a team that finishes yet again in the top 3 or 4 of the Big 12 and is in the equation to make the second weekend of the tournament. I know what your standards are, Jeff. This is not a Final Four team.
No, I don't think
they're
so.
not.
I don't think so. Unless Burries is like a top 5 pick, coming out of his freshman year. Like if he becomes that, if you're talking about him being an efficient number one option early, and it's got to happen fairly early here, then I think that's a game changer. Because again, like you said, there aren't going to be many, if Krivas is healthy, there aren't going to be many 5-man duos than Krivas and Awaka. And I don't know how much you can play them together. They'll probably try some. And then you throw in Pete at the 4. So those 3 guys, you're not finding many better 4 or 5s, okay? Jaden Bradley is certainly as proven as most point guards out there, right? He's older. He did a year at Alabama, a couple at Arizona. So he's older. He knows the system. So to me, again, the big question is like Burries, Delorso, do they have enough shooting? That's the other thing. Do they have enough perimeter shooting
Big
is
question.
A question to ask here, Fana, because Pete is not a shooter. Krivas is not a stretch. Awaka is not a stretch. Right. Bradley's he's a good shooter, but not a knockdown, So it's Burries and Delorso that have to really space the court. And if Burries isn't, I think he's more scorer than shooter. And as freshmen, I've seen the best damn freshman shooters, pure shooters, over the years struggle as freshmen. Like elite shooters, and they'll struggle. So like you don't know. So I think perimeter shooting is something I'm concerned about.
Yeah, you look at a Knipple, it took him until January to really hit his stride, and that's just it. November and December for this team, it's not like they have much time to work through some of this stuff. We will see. That's your offseason grades for Arizona basketball. Hey, subscribe to our channel. We have offseason grades for all the heavyweights in the country, and even some who are not. We've got you covered on the field of 68. Thanks for watching.